Radical Radio Collective.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show. Fact check?
I'd have to agree with that statement 100%.
100%. We're taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, end-ish of the month airwaves. My name is Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
And I'm Andy, and my pronouns are he, him.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians on the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city of Mungingin, or Mianjin, on Turrbal Yagara Yugambeh land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Jinnabara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south we reach the Commonwealth, Nagaragwal, Munjali, Wanjerabara, Yugambeh and Bundjalung countries. There is no Crown land. And thank you to No Idea for another wonderful show. Thank you, Izzy, for just sending a text in complimenting me on a new haircut.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Thanks, Andy.
How observant am I?
Well, today on the show, we're going to be doing some cross-pollination. We are joined in the studio by Sarah from EcoHerzzz.
Hello, I am Sarah from EcoHerzzz, which is Australia's longest-running feminism and social justice program.
100%.
Yes.
Fact checked?
I'd have to agree with that. I've read Heather Anderson's blurb in the book. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. You can fact check all of us by reading Heather Anderson's book, 4ZZZ.
Yeah, People Powered Radio.
People Powered Radio, that's it. Thank you very much, Andy. So because we have Sarah in the studio today, from now on, we're going to be called EcoHerzzz. How does that sound?
I like it.
EcoHerzzz.
Yep, I can get on board with that.
Okay. And in the studio today, we have a very special guest, Renée Mickelburgh, lecturer of communications at the University of Queensland. Renee is the author of the ecofeminist storyteller, environmental communication through women's digital garden stories. We're going to be talking about ecofeminism. Thank you, Renee, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be seated beside the feminist and the botanist. This is wonderful. Yeah, so thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And today we're going to have a theme, not just ecofeminism. We're also going to be, because this Sunday is National Tree Day, there's so many tree plantings happening this weekend, so many more that we can't put into the Bushcare Roundup. So we're just going to remind everyone all day today, or all show today, to be in the mood for tree planting by playing all plant-based songs. So let's get stuck into it. The big one, everyone knows it, everyone loves it. It's Joni Mitchell with Big Yellow Taxi. You're listening to EcoHerzzz on 4ZZZ. We'll see you after this.
4ZZZ presents Cracked Rhinestones 2. We're saddling up the horses again.
Crack of Sparrows and the Rhinestone Cowgirl.
Bris Vegas's premier country and western radio shows return with Cracked Rhinestones 2. Right on down to the Cave Inn. Saturday 8th of August for a lineup bigger than Texas.
Waiting for Brenda, Sammy Snide, Chloe Marks and the Mayhem, Cosmic Cowboys and the Incognitos, camping, Acid Arrow, all the way from Melbourne.
And Super Fried does the Blues Brothers.
The last round sold out, so you better get a wriggle on.
Doors at 3 p.m. and fair income prices too. Pre-sale $25 for Z subs,
$35 for non-subs.
Honey, I got you now.
Welcome back. Isn't that such a beautiful song there? That is Trees Eat Us All by Formidable Vegetable. Just a beautiful track, a beautiful message. Before that was Joni Mitchell with Big Yellow Taxi. Another beautiful song, another beautiful message. That's what we're here for today. It's National Tree Day on Sunday, so we're going to be playing all tree-related songs. But But that's not what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about ecofeminism, because in the studio today we have Sarah from EcoHerzzz, a little bit of a cross-pollination of shows here at 4ZZZ, and we're also joined by Renée Mickelburgh, lecturer of communications at the University of Queensland, who focuses on ecofeminism. So Renee, ecofeminism, from my understanding, is a way to look at the environment and the threats to the environment in a more gender equal lens. Could you explain it to me a bit more in depth than that?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me here. And thank you for that beautiful acknowledgement of country. And so I too would just like to acknowledge country before I start speaking. Just to, ecofeminism focuses a lot on care, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, we certainly weren't the first to invent care, and people have been caring for country here, First Nations people, for millennia. But yeah, ecofeminism, it considers the damage inflicted on the environment as not equal. So when we think about polluted waters or forests that have been logged, women and minority groups are often most affected. Often this is because women are often the primary caregivers, and so they see if their children are getting sick through these polluted waters, but they also in many countries rely on the land for their own economic benefit, and so when that environment's destroyed, they're the ones that often feel it first. Yeah, so they consider that the structures that oppress the environment also oppress women and other minorities. Yeah.
So how do we unpack that as in an Australian lens, in an Australian package?
Okay. So I guess I can speak a little bit about my own research and use examples there. The way I came to ecofeminism was through an Australian philosopher called Val Plumwood, who's written a lot of books about ecofeminism, but I was particularly struck with her a commitment or theory around us all having a deep connection or a deep acquaintance with place in order to develop what she calls a language, develop a language for the land, so develop a deep love for the land. And at the same time, I came across the work or the friendship, I should say, of two wonderful creatives here in Queensland, Judith Wright, who was a poet here, and Kathleen MacArthur, who was a wildflower illustrator. And in the 50s and 60s, through their letters and correspondence, they would often talk about their gardens. But through that, they would also start to correspond and discuss environmental issues. And they went on to become really strong and important environmental activists to protect some of our most beautiful and important parts of Queensland, including the Great Barrier Reef, Gari, and the Koala area, which is north of Noosa. And all of those places, I grew up in Queensland myself, in the southern end of the Great Barrier Reef. So it really sort of opened my eyes to I guess the importance of this deep acquaintance with place and thinking around place, but also about connection and community and creativity, I suppose, as well, and how that can all be used to protect our natural world.
Yeah, so you write a lot about the letters that people write. Your book is in, I guess, a letter format. It uses letters as a storytelling device. And that was influenced by Judith Wright's letters?
Yeah, absolutely. So I teach and I think a lot about communication, and there are many different ways to communicate and and connect with people as well. But I find letters a really interesting way of connection and a way to see what people's lives were like, and I guess as well in this world of social media and very instantaneous correspondence, I think there's something in that slowness of the letter writing, in that it encourages us to pay attention and think deeply, and have that deep acquaintance and develop that deep acquaintance with place.
Yeah. The I guess gendering of gardening has been a big part of your work, and how gendering of nature has been a part of our language for quite a while. Is ecofeminism push against that and sort of uncouple gender from environment?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a history with ecofeminism and ecofeminist theory. People did, I guess at the beginning of it, it was a term coined in the 1970s, and around that time there was a lot of activism, particularly from women who were affected by environmental degradation.
Because they were the caregivers, and environmental degradation, pollution mainly was affecting their families.
Yeah, often it's different in different parts of the world. But let's say if we use the United States, for example, there's a very famous case. It's called the Love Canal case, where toxic chemicals leaked into a community, and women and their children, as women as the caregivers, were seeing their families really impacted negatively by that. So that's probably one example.
Right. So they're the ones that stood up and said, "This is wrong, and we should fight against it." Yeah,
absolutely. In Australia, there's probably some examples that are used are the protests at Pine Gap against the nuclear testing in Pine Gap in the 80s, I think that was. But
I remember that.
Were you there?
I wasn't there, but I was watching it on TV.
Was the nuclear testing at Maralinga?
Sorry, was it?
The Pine Gap is a spy base.
Yeah. I'm getting confused.
Pine Gap recently actually did have a protest against it, where Aboriginal women stood up and said, "You need to give us our land back and stop using this for war."
Yes.
So that is an example.
Yeah. So there's, so you were talking a little bit about the language. So they. Then there was a bit of a distancing from ecofeminism, because there was a thought that ecofeminism was connecting women to nature, to as sort of what was called essentialism.
Right.
So
it's sort of people were assuming because you're a woman, you must like nature, or you must be a part of.
It goes a connection to nature.
It goes
inherently
a little further than that,
okay.
In that nature was seen as the irrational, or the
chaotic,
the without reason, things like that.
Okay.
And
emotional.
Yeah, emotional, absolutely. So there was a push against, by some feminists actually, who quite rightly wanted to, be seen to have their voice and be recognised for as autonomous human beings. So there was a bit of, I guess, withdrawal from ecofeminism. But I would say, and I guess what I'm interested now is a more of a what I term a more of a composted feminism. So thinking about the strengths that we can draw from ecofeminist theory, and some of that, or a lot of that, involves caring, and obviously that can be an area of a lot of conjecture amongst feminism, because obviously we don't want to suggest that women are innately more caring because of their biology, but there is something important about care as well.
There's a real tension there where we both undervalue caring, but also say that women are innately carers, and so we have both.
And we need them to be carers.
Yeah, so we want to, for one aspect of feminism, looks at wanting to dispel myths that caring is innately female, and all people should and have the capacity to care. All all people can be carers, and just because it has been predominantly women doesn't mean it needs to be, and that these gender roles are, they're assigned, they're made up. But at the same time, because of that, caring is completely undervalued. So there is that tension of trying to both value caring roles and value the and I'm using my air quotes here, feminine qualities, while also not being essentialist about it. And where do we find that composted ground? Where do we find that middle thing?
Yeah, you've put that so beautifully. And I guess when it comes to the environment, at this present moment, I think caring is something we really need to do and think about and do better as well. But yeah, there's that difficulty there if we think that it is only women who care, because as you rightly said, certainly it can't be just women that care. But I guess the other thing I'd probably just add is because women have been relegated to a care role, they also have some incredible knowledge about that's often been dismissed, about their natural environment.
Absolutely, yeah. So these ways of knowing and these ways which often are common to women, whether that be nature, nurture, whatever, but and also non-white societies as well. Absolutely. Have these ways of knowing that because they're not institutionalised, are not recognised at all or valued,
and often they're not paid.
And
so
yes, that comes with not valued intellectually, and also not valued financially.
That is a very good point, because when I was growing up, caring was obviously something that wasn't instilled upon me as a trait of masculinity, whatever that means. But in Aboriginal cultures, when you're hunting or gathering, you're grabbing food from somewhere, there is the inherent caring facility, because you don't want to take too much. So it is not just a female trait to care. It's something that's been taught or bred out, or not bred out, but like untaught, unlearnt in my society.
Which is totally fascinating, because the caring, the aspect of caring and community and looking after each other is really what ensures human survival. Like this is what has actually made humans different from other animals on the planet. The fact that if you are sick or injured, the herd will actually care for you. And to have that that caring is so important. It is the most human thing.
Yeah.
So not necessarily gendered
no.
at all.
All right, well, let's keep going. We've got some songs to play. Sarah, you've picked this song, Belly, called Feed the Tree. This is your pick for the tree songs, because it is National Tree Day on Sunday, so we're getting you in the mood. Here's the song Belly. Here's the artist Belly with their song Feed the Tree. You're listening to EcoHerzzz on 4ZZZ.
Are you renovating, restocking your classroom craft stash, building a sci-fi film set, looking for an out-of-the-ordinary material to complete your art project? Conveniently located in Wollongabba, Reverse Garbage Queensland is a treasure trove of raw material for every kind of creative. It's like a hardware, craft and office supply store all in one place, at half retail price or less. Add an extra 10% off with a 4ZZZ sub-discount. Everything in-store is industrial discard from around Brisbane, so when you buy something, you're saving it from landfill. Reverse Garbage is a proud 4ZZZ subscriber discount outlet.
Another beautiful song there. That was LJ Hill with Pretty Bird Tree, and before that was Belly with Feed the Tree. We're doing all tree playlists today because it is National Tree Day on Sunday, and maybe later we'll talk about our favourite trees during the Bushcare Roundup. But we are here doing EcoHerzzz because in the studio we have Sarah from EcoHerzzz, and we're doing a ecofeminism show with our very special guest, Dr. Renée Mickelburgh. She is a lecturer of communications at the University of Queensland and author of the ecofeminist Storyteller. So, yeah, let's continue on.
Renee, I'm thinking about gardening and about scale. So we're talking about the realms of women and influence on the environment, and talking about gardening as an ecofeminist act, and wanted to just ask you about gardening. Yeah, how is gardening a revolutionary act?
Look, absolutely. I would love it if everybody had a garden. I think that would go a long way to saving the world, particularly a food-producing garden. But I think maybe even before I answer that question, it's important to also reflect that not everybody has the privilege of having a garden. And actually, Val Plumwood, who talked about that deep acquaintance with place, she later wrote about shadow places. So thinking about, you might have a nice garden. Who's paying the price for that? She didn't say you might have a garden. Well, you're in that deep acquaintance with place and you're lucky enough to have that. Who's sort of paying the price for that, So I think, it's... and we think about, people experiencing homelessness, people who don't have secure housing or live in poverty or many other reasons might not be able to have a garden. So, it is...
Even people just in built-up areas, because, we're building up a lot and, not everyone has a park nearby or a bushcare site even, or... even a balcony to have pot plants.
Well, that makes me think about guerrilla gardening. Is that something that you've come across in your work?
It definitely is. Yeah, I didn't study it, but I'm really interested. That's a really interesting concept where people throw seeds in, let's say, traffic islands or unused allotments, things like that. There are problems with that as well. Andrew, you might be. I'm not sure if you're able to comment because we don't want to grow weeds either.
No.
Things like that.
They have to be native and they have to be good for the area.
Yeah. So you'd want to just be careful about that. And obviously community gardens are a wonderful way to garden.
So the community garden recently, the guerrilla garden growing forward at Koorparoo Commons was bulldozed by the state, and that was female-led institution as well, growing forward.
I'm very sad to hear that happened to that community garden.
Actually, there's a lot of bushcare sites that I know of where the leaders of those bushcare sites or leaders in community catchment organisations are women as well. There's a big correlation between women and the environment.
Yeah, and I certainly haven't done any studies on that, so I can only maybe speak anecdotally or even from personal experience. I do wonder, unfortunately, women still do have a lot of that caring responsibility, and so they may be out with their children and see those creeks and bushes and areas that need assistance. But again, that's only an anecdote.
Sarah, you were saying that volunteering is made up a lot by a large number of women.
Definitely. Volunteer workforce is women dominant for sure in Australia. It is for a variety of reasons, for perception of what that is, time availability, I guess. But so definitely, yes, unpaid. The fact that it's unpaid, women will accept unpaid work
more than men.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So,
Sorry, but just back to your question about scaling up gardens. My thought around that is, we don't just grow plants in gardens. We grow stories, we grow connection, we grow community and reciprocity, and all of those things we can use to advocate for the natural world, to advocate for other women, to come together. I believe there is power in numbers. You learn more about how systems work So that would be my answer, I guess, to that. You learn so much. Yeah.
So you mentioned before that there was a bit of a movement away from ecofeminism, I don't know, in the 90s, early noughties. What do you think the future for ecofeminism would entail?
Definitely acknowledging, considering Indigenous perspectives. Absolutely, as I said right at the start, First Nations people have cared for country for millennia in this country, and I'm sure can teach us a lot. And there's a lot. And along with that, thinking about other feminisms or types of approaches, say queer theory, queer thinking, or it's back to that thinking around composting our thinking and bringing in some of those perspectives that maybe weren't so acknowledged when ecofeminism first emerged. Yeah. Silence.
We're contemplating the profound future.
Oh, actually, one thing I would add to that, is I guess one thing I've become increasingly concerned and interested in is the growth of AI, and I know that's segueing really dramatically from gardens, but there's certainly significant environmental impacts from AI, and I think we need to start to think about how we might work in that world, and that's a really big challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like this one is so intertwined with ecofeminism because the whole idea of AI taking over jobs as well, that they already have done studies that they know that it will disproportionately be taking over jobs that are held by women and other minorities. So there is that factor as well. They've as you mentioned before, there are studies showing that that environmental impacts also disproportionately affect women and people living in lower socioeconomic areas as well. So I feel like that this is a big one, and this is going to be really entwined with and also the idea of AI taking jobs is the value of what is seen as a job, what is seen as valuable work, what is seen as what is going to be paid work as well, and so much to unpack there.
Yeah, and I think along with concepts around obviously I'm very focused on communication, and AI is having a massive impact on communication processes, on how we communicate. Look, there's a lot of, we're getting a little bit away from the environment here, but I promise I've got a point to make. There's a lot of talk now, and I'm seeing it myself, about the blandness or the genericness of AI outputs, particularly in writing. And I think when ecofeminism has values creativity and creative thinking, I think that might also be something we need to think really carefully about when we're talking about AI and how it might affect us and how it might affect the way we communicate, because that's all about how we create community, right? How we create connection and work for an improved environment and an improved world for everyone, really.
And just our storytelling.
Yeah.
Could we go back a bit to that, that storytelling and that communication that is obviously a really big part of your work, and the communication aspect of ecofeminism. Can you tell us about the relevance of communication?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this on the drive to work. I was lucky enough to be helping out a colleague who developed a wonderful program with some Vietnamese academics and leaders in NGOs, and we brought them over to she brought them over to UQ, and I did a workshop with them in the garden. We have a community garden at UQ, and I thought it was so interesting, the stories that emerged when they walked through the garden, thinking about their own stories. Like, so a place... A garden can hold many different stories. So the stories that emerged when they walked through the garden were quite different to the stories that our students that emerge for our students when they walk through the garden. And so again, it's this beautiful way to communicate with each other, to learn from each other. But ecofeminism has definitely utilised different forms of writing and art in order to communicate that message. And a bit of that is an act of resistance as well, is communicating differently, communicating in a more aesthetic way, to communicate emotion and things like that.
I find that really interesting because people will walk through a garden, they're overwhelmed by some of the smells. They might be smelling some garlic or something that might remind them of a meal that they once had, and like how that sort of communication can evolve just from walking in a garden, and how nice being, although it's a curated nature, how nice being in nature can be. We will go to some songs. I also think that songs are a fantastic way to communicate stories and ideas, and that's how I've learned about some of the stories over the years. But when we come back, we will be entering our last little bit of talking, and I would like to know about what I can do to be a good eco-feminist. So we'll be right back after these songs. Let's go to Trees by Jessie Wells. This is all tree-related songs because this Sunday is National Tree Day, so I hope this gets you in the mood, even though these aren't native trees. We'll give it a pass. You're listening to EcoHerzzz on 4ZZZ.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realise I was a seed.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child, and thank you, Sinead O'Connor, for that wonderful quote. They thought they tried to bury me, but they did not know I was a seed. Beautiful idea. We are back. We just heard then from No Name with Rainforest, and before that was Jessie Wells with Trees. We're doing all tree or plant-based songs because it's National Tree Day on Sunday. But in the studio, we are joined in a wonderful cross-pollination show with Sarah from EcoHerzzz, and we have been calling our show EcoHerzzz for the day. And we're also joined by Renée Mickelburgh, a eco-feminist researcher. So Renee, I asked before the break how I can be a good eco-feminist. Do you have some simple ways for me to do that?
Well, I've got a bit of a strange answer to that.
Okay.
So I think that you are doing that at the moment. So ecofeminism is about, it thinks about storytelling, it thinks about community and connection, and community radio is a great example of that. You've spent the last hour broadcasting songs about trees, and we've spoken a lot about issues of environmental significance, and I think that's actually a really, really important ecofeminist action.
I love not having to do anything. That's great.
I suspect you do a lot. You're volunteering your time. I am sure that you've done a fair bit of research. It sounds like you've even done some reading of my book, which I'm very impressed by. And talking, connecting community, talking about things people can can do this weekend. These are all really, really important things, in order to build community and to get people thinking about these issues. Absolutely.
Okay, well, to keep going on being an eco-feminist then, why don't we go around and tell a story about our favourite tree? How does that sound, everyone?
Oh, sounds great.
All right, Sarah, would you like to kick us off?
A story about my favourite tree.
Or just your favourite tree and how that, because it is National Tree Day on Sunday.
Yeah, look, my favourite trees would have to be any kind of fruit tree. I love fruit trees. I love that they're very very showy and they're very, very obvious. You can see the seasons, all of the seasons through a fruit tree. They're deciduous. So and then they and of course fruit bearing and the blossoms. I just love the blossoms on fruit trees. So that very obvious cycle and they usually smell great, taste great. What's not to love about a fruit tree?
Am I next?
Yeah, please,
okay.
Renee.
While we were in the break, I was talking about my beloved Banksia, but my favourite tree has got to be the ironbark in my backyard because it's very big and probably shouldn't be there, but it has the most beautiful blossoms that don't blossom even every year, but it brings in so many beautiful birds. And it's it's part of that Mount Cootha forest, so there's a lot of history there in terms of native bees and the connection there. But it's really special to me.
Nice. Yeah, nice. Andy, what have you got for me?
Okay.
Something not moss related, obviously.
Well, moss can grow on trees.
It can.
Epiphytes. But good question. I've seen a lot of different tree species, but the one that really came to mind when you asked that question was a blue quandong I came across up at Yungala, and it had the biggest buttresses I've ever seen on a quandong.
Nice.
This is, Iliocarpus grandis, and really had to climb over these buttresses. It was a massive quandong. I haven't seen one as big as that.
For our listeners, because radio is a audio platform, can you describe a buttress to us?
Oh, okay, yeah, a buttress. So if you think of some of the fig trees, they've got that like flared roots that grow across the surface of the soil to keep the tree upright, they think.
There's like long, thin
roots, plank roots that sort of emanate out of the trunks.
Andy likes big buttresses. You cannot lie.
Yeah. So how about you, Dave? What's yours?
I'm going to be a bit controversial. I don't think it's a tree in name, in common name alone, the grass tree. I am fascinated by the grass tree and its many uses. The resin is a fantastic, like liquid cement. It's got edible core. It's great for birds. The flower stalk on it is fantastic, and I love the environment that it grows in. When there's a grass tree forest, it just looks so, I don't know, otherworldly.
We're talking xantharias?
Xantharias, yeah.
I did not know they had an edible core.
Well, the heart of where the grass grows from, all that white bit in the grass leaves are edible.
The base,
the
base of the leaf.
And don't these ones take about 200 years to grow?
Very slow growing. Yeah.
They're very slow growing. They can grow for a long 800 years or something.
I'm just saying 200 years. That's a long time to wait for a snack.
Well, it takes about 30 years for it to get off of the ground.
Yeah.
So they grow about 3 centimetres a year or something like that. 2 centimetres a year, something like that.
I planted one in my yard 10 years ago and it's still on the ground.
Yeah.
I have a last question for Renee before.
Sorry, Sarah, we can't. We've got to do the Bushcare Roundup. I'm so sorry.
We'll have to come
another
back.
time. Yeah.
The Bushcare Roundup is our weekly roundup of all environmental and peace activities, and the sting goes a little something like this.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
Okay, so July, we're still in the Great Australian Fungi Hunt if you want to take part in that, especially with the wet days we've had. So from the 1st to the 31st of July, you can take part in the FungiMap's Great Australian Fungi Hunt, and that's basically taking a photo of a fungus or a lichen or a slime mould and putting it up on the iNaturalist project for the FungiMap's great Aussie Fungi Hunt. And on the online community will help with identifying your observation.
Happening Thursday, 8:30am. You can go to Coorparoo Finger Gullies Bushcare Working Bee. That's in Coorparoo.
On Saturday the 25th at 8 o'clock, there's a Moreton Bay ROB building working bee at 2 Whimbrel Street, Port of Brisbane.
That's those oyster baskets that we build for creating artificial reefs.
Yep. Oh, cool. At 8:30, it's the National Tree Day Koala Habitat at Arundel. 9 o'clock on Saturday at the Calamvale District Park Bushcare, and that's at 31 Formby Street, Calamvale.
And Sunday, National Tree Day. There are so many activities that you can get involved in. We only can list a few, but happening Eagleby, National Tree Day planting in Logan Street, Eagleby, at 8 o'clock. At 8:30, you can go to the North Harbour Heritage Park tree planting. That's in Morayfield. At 8:30 as well, you can go to the Moreton rewilding, and you get a free plant if you go down there and volunteer. That's in Urungapilli. At 9 o'clock, you can go to the Indigiscapes community tree planting. That's Redland Bay. And at 9 o'clock as well, go to the Muriel Avenue Bushcare Group tree planting. That's in Maruka. And midday on Sunday, after you're done planting trees, you can go to the RecLink Community Cup. That's at Everton Wolves Football Club. And that's all we've got time for. We're quickly running out of time. We're going to hand over to the feedback loop with Sophie and Emmy. Thank you so much for listening in today. Renee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sarah, thank you so much for running EcoHerzzz with me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.